Greetings and welcome to another edition of Red Pill Diaries. I'm your host Rashid, and we had to do a last minute switch here, and let me tell you why. We've been going through a few things, and as you see, I am please forgive me for a second. I am truly trying to get this stuff going. Give me 1 second, and I'll let you know everything that's going on. Okay, just give me a second. Um, Here we are right here. Um, Here we are right here. Okay, there we are. So, um, okay, here's the deal here. We had something that came up for yesterday, so we could not do the live yesterday. And I'm gonna tell you, we had to handle a little personal stuff, but at the same time, we also had to try to work on the computers. Let me tell you what was going on, and then I'm gonna fill you in, and then I'll bring you up to speed on what's happening today and what's happening tomorrow. So both both computers we used on the show. The main one that you see me looking at you right now, and then when you see me turn to the side, both of those computers were hit with a virus, a massive virus. They went down. My son somehow got one of them back up. This one, I tell you, he's a tech, but he got it up late last night. So even if we wanted to come to you, we would have had to stream through a phone, which would have not have been the best idea, but we would have still had to do that. Um, and that is one reason. That's one of the other reasons why we could not do the live. I mean, it just hit us like day before yesterday, the night before that, when it was time for the show. Also, we have indisputable proof that YouTube is taking subscribers. We did a subscriber count. We took pictures, and within the last 2 days, 3 days, we got like 169 or 179. My son is not in here, so I can't remember. It's either 169 or 179 subscribers on this. So this shows you just how many subscribers we're getting, but it also shows you just how many subscribers they're taking because after a few hours, I think it wasn't even 2 whole hours, the subscriber count was less than it was before we got all of the subscribers. So if you look to the subscriber count, it's at 585. So it's less than it was before we got the 169, 179 subscribers. And we have picture evidence where we were taking pictures of like how blocks of 10 and 5 were taken every few minutes or every 10 or 15 minutes or something like that. And this also happened on our sister channel, which got about 35 or 40 subscribers, and now they are less than where it started too. So YouTube is having an active effort to prevent the show from reaching its full potential with subscribers. I guess they don't want us monetized. I don't care anything about the money. I guess they want us to remain a small channel, and so that we're not forced to be put into the big ticket algorithm. I think that is what is going on. But in reality, I just want to let you know that now, if you look at the show today, the thumbnail is tomorrow's show. And if you look at tomorrow's show, the thumbnail is today's show. Well, let me tell you why that happened also. I got to fill you in on these things before we really start kicking it, okay? Um, I I got a message from Scott Bennett and he yesterday, and he told me to hit him up today. So I called him up a little bit before the show, but Scott was sounding real bad. He was gonna come on the show. He was sounding real bad, and I was like, hey, do you want to just postpone this till tomorrow? And he said, yeah, we'll flip the script. He has a lot of phlegm and all of that stuff in his throat, so I didn't want to push it because I know how it is when you're feeling a little under the weather. So this happened not too long ago, so I was left with trying to flip the shows or whatever, so that we would not miss a second day in a row talking to you all. So I talked to Scott, and he was like, "Hey, okay, that's cool. That sounds good, man. I appreciate your understanding. I appreciate it, and I'll be there." So that is why the thumbnails are different from the shows. Okay, there's a lot. I'm telling you, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, especially when you want to have A-class guests, and also when you're trying to fight the YouTube algorithm. And when you try to put on quality, informative, powerful shows, you don't want this just for entertainment. When you're talking to people, you want to give them information that will help them understand the situation that they're in, understand the situation that America's in, and understand the situation the world now finds itself in. Okay, and also there will be a little lag time in the show. I hit Rashid up at the last minute, so I don't know if he'll be able to join us at this moment or if he'll uh, get the message in time or whatever. I don't know. But what I do know is that we're going to try to do a little show about the latest news. Okay, I sent him the link. I texted him a message. Maybe he'll get it because all of this stuff is like happening right at the last time. And also for those of you who hit me up on email, I told you I have real sensitive skin, and somebody sent me something concerning what to use so that I can shave again. I'm sorry, I can't find the email. I'm sorry. Would you please send it again? Um, so those are the things that are taking place right here, right now, with the Red Pill Diaries and the Red Pill Journals. But we got to keep it pushing. We just got to keep it pushing. So there will be a lag time and a little freezing here and there because I'm working on one computer and I'm trying to get you the information. And I'm looking down because I have to use my cell phone because they took down both the computers. But I ordered replacement computers, and they should be here in a day now. All right. So give me 1 second. The we're going to check out something in a second. I'm getting a message from someone. Uh, all right, here we go. But it wasn't Rashid, and this is a pretty message about something that just went down in Ukraine. Live on the air, so I'll check that out. But I won't divulge that on the air. I'll probably read it and then do an article about it. Um, I want you to see something. This is the situation now unfolding in America. Okay, we talk about economics, we talk about geopolitics, we talk about civil liberties, civil rights, we talk about human rights, we talk about hypocrisy, and a host of other things. And we like to connect the dots. We want you to understand that what is going on right now is the reshaping, not only of the reshaping of the global order, but what is going on right now is the removal of an entire world. And when I mean by a world, I mean a way of rule, a way of governance, a way of leadership that is being swept away in the dustbin of history. So never have you seen so many black swans hitting America and hitting the world order at one time. Think about that. We see the wars and the rumors of wars. We see the economic collapse and the consequences of the economic collapse. And we see more black swans that are telling us that the economy in America and the global economy is dovetailing and is about to spiral out of control. We also see the growing dissatisfaction between the people and their governments, the governments and the people, and in the way that the people are being governed. And we see there's a growing cultural and class divide, not only here in America, but across the globe. This, as I constantly say, is a recipe for certain insurrection, certain civil strife, and certain civil war, which will bring down the collapse of American power and the Western world order. All of these are significant. What I call them is dynamite. Each one of them is a piece of dynamite laid at the base of the Western world order. And when one piece of dynamite explodes, it sets off a chain reaction with the other pieces of dynamite. And so what we're seeing laid at the base of the Western world order, multiple explosion after explosion after explosion, and is leveling the weight bearing wall or the weight bearing column, which is America. And she's fighting like hell. She's fighting like mad to maintain her influence. She's fighting like hell. She's fighting like mad to try to maintain her influence and her wealth and her power. And this is the cause of the global instability the domestic strife and instability, and the growing divides. See, America does not make it possible for others to ascend to the throne. She doesn't make it possible for a fair world, because a fair world means that America has to sit at the seat at a table with equal or greater partners. In her eyes, that is unfathomable. That means that she would have to accept your word as law, or she would have to abide by fair laws, fairer rulership. She would have to rein in her arrogance and her do as I say and not as I do policy. And this is unacceptable for America, and this is pushing the world towards confrontation. If you look at Africa, you see all the vestige of American imperialism. If you look at what just happened in South America, and you see it constantly happen in Latin America with her coups and color revolutions. And then she wonders why the people, the regular people of those nations, are against her. She wonders why they are siding with Russia and China and Iran over her. She wonders why her so-called Monroe Doctrine is failing. She is so arrogant and so inebriated on the power and the influence that she used to have, and the way that she used to be when everybody feared her and bowed to her, that she can't comprehend that it is her policies which are alienating her from South and Central America, the Caribbean, Africa, even her European allies, Asia, the Middle East. She can't fathom that that is the arrogance of a nation. I see Rashid just hit the booth. I saw him in here. I got your message. I saw him in here, but I didn't bring him in. I guess he kept getting dropped. I don't know, but I see him in, and I'm about to add him to the screen. So, how's it going, my brother? Are you there, Rashid? Now, how is that? Listen, I'm looking at him in the queue. His picture and everything, but on the screen, it's black. But I'm watching him in the queue move around. Rashid, you might have to refresh your screen again. They're playing the game some more. But again, she does not take a second to think, okay, well, maybe if I change my policy, and maybe if I show contrition and empathy and sympathy towards the people that I raped, robbed, and pillaged, maybe we can make a way forward from the actions that I took against these nations. Rashid, are you there? I see you there. Can you hear me, Rashid? Hopefully he'll get it. I hear something in the background. Okay, there you go. There you go.
Yes.
How's it going today, man?
I can hear you.
How's it going? I think they're messing with him a little bit. They're messing with him a little bit. I told you we were going to have these bumps and bruises along the way as we try to give you this truth. They keep messing with his microphone or his ear, his hearing, in his headphones or whatever. But just jump whenever you feel free to. Just jump in and add your 2 cents, and I'll shut up or whatever if you can still hear me. I knew it. They dropped him. They dropped him. But you see, what I'm telling you about what is real now. You would think that this channel had 80,000 subscribers, right? For them to bother this channel so much and for them to delete as many subscribers as they delete on a daily and weekly basis. I have a thought on why they do that. Like I said, it's to keep us out of the game with the big guys. Because if we can influence more people right? Maybe we will drop the dime on some of the ones who are the big channels who claim to be showing you what's going on, because some of them willingly omit a lot of information that should be told. Some of your favorite channels willingly omit a lot of information, and they don't talk about things that's unpalatable to them. You understand? So I believe that the repression is something that is to prevent us from breaking out into the mainstream, the big with the big boys, because this has been going on since the channel has been up. So think about the thousands and thousands and thousands of subscribers they've deleted from the account. And when I get a chance to, we're gonna do it again. I'm gonna show you, if I get a chance, my son and I, we're gonna show you just how when we get X amount of subscribers, we're gonna show you the deletion rate from YouTube, so that you can see how many they delete, and then we're going to show you the time span of which the deletion takes place, so that you can understand that even though we only have almost 600, we are supposed to be into tens of thousands. Okay, but hey, you find the algorithm. But if we have one, that's cool. But I want to get to something, and I see Rashid back in the booth. Hold on, Rashid, do your head like this so I can see that you're moving, because it looks like you're frozen a little bit. Let's see if he hears me. I see him move his head a little bit. How's it going? Can you hear me? They're messing with me. You're on the screen now, Rashid. So maybe he'll jump in a second. I'm giving him the free for all. When he jumps in, I'll stop. I told you at the beginning of the show that we were going to have this problem here. Even before Rashid joined, I told you. Let's go to something real quick. Mm. So, in the economic collapse law, and pardon me 1 second, okay? 1 second. Um, okay, here we are. Um, I need to go to this article real quick. I'm trying to pull up a few articles, but it's hard to pull them up on your phone because all of these ads come up and everything. But give me a second. Yes. Economic collapse law. It says, and this was on the 15th of this month. It says most people are simply not ready for the economic chaos that is coming in 2023. Stop right there. Just the title alone tells you to brace for something. See, we see signs that are indicative of something greater or more terrible or more dreadful on its way. When you go to the stores and the stores refrigerators are half empty, or the store shelves are half empty, or goods that used to be plentiful or abundant or rare, or you have to go to multiple stores to get one thing, a few things that you used to could get out of one store. It shows us that there's something more dreadful in that underlying view path. So listen what it says. Have you noticed that a lot of big companies have been conducting mass layoffs recently? Now stop right there. Now I'm reading this for the first time with you though. Remember, yeah. Hold on 1 second. Rashid just hit me up. He said, listen to me good. Rashid said, this is the worst one yet. He said it took him 15 minutes to log into the show. And guess what? They just disconnected him again when he sent me the message. No lie. No lie. No lie at all. Rashid said it took him 15 minutes to log in to the show. And he says he's here, but this is the worst thing ever, blocking him left and right. So let's go. Hopefully he'll get back on. So let's go here. Remember the job reports and stuff that was coming out all rosy. Oh, we added this amount of jobs to the employment rate and this and this and this, and all while they have been bleeding jobs left and right. This is what it says. Have you noticed that a lot of big companies have been conducting mass layoffs recently? Amazon, right? Google, right? all of these companies that make tens of billions of dollars supposedly are laying off. Why is that? Why? You would think if you are making hundreds of billions of dollars and you are worth, as Google, $500 billion or $1 trillion, that layoffs would be far further from your mind. But just like with the smaller companies, larger companies are also laying off a lot of people. This does not bode well for the U.S. economy, all right? Because a lot of these numbers for these YouTube platforms or these internet platforms, they are inflated because they have connections with the CIA and the intelligence service. So they need to be at a certain value, all right? So they work in tandem or hand in hand with each other. And this is to prevent any non-US or non-Western platform like TikTok from usurping the masses, from usurping the influence of the masses from Google, Facebook, what is the Instagram or something? Instagram and things like that. So it says, have you noticed that a lot of big companies have been conducting mass layoffs? At this point, it has become exceedingly clear that a major economic slowdown, has begun. And payrolls are being feverishly slashed at a rate that we haven't seen in a long time. In fact, the number of job cuts in November was 417% higher than it was in November 2021. Remember when they were talking about the situation in November 2021 and the unnamed virus was the cause of it? And remember that? What's the cause of it now? Especially when you have a 417% increase. What's the cause of it now? You can't blame it on the unnamed virus now, could you? But listen, let's go further. It says, unfortunately, what we have witnessed so far is just the beginning. We are being warned that a couple million more Americans could lose their jobs in 2023. And the vast majority of the population is simply not prepared for such a scenario. In fact, a new survey that was just released found that 63% of all Americans are currently living paycheck to pay. I can't see my face on air. Hopefully I'm back on the air. Okay, I'm back on. They are tripping. Anyway, and I see Rashid back in the booth. I'll bring him back in. But I want to finish this thought as I bring him back in. And then I'll go to him in a second. But listen, I talk to family members sometimes. And I tell them about the economic situations that we're in. And I tell them about what to expect because it's going to get way worse than this. And I try to tell them that if possible, don't take on major debt. You're not going to major debt. I know some of us, we want to own another home, or we want to buy another car, or we want to do this. And I'm trying to give them sound financial advice. Do not take on more debt. You've been at this job for 10 years. Yeah, you've been at this job for 20 years. But will this job be with you in 1 to 2 years? And if you get yourself in a position that you have to pay more money on something and on multiple things, and you lose your job, where will that put you? Our people are flashy people. Black people I'm talking about now are flashy people. And sometimes sound economic advice goes in one ear and goes right out the other. Because you want to keep up with the Joneses. As they say, you can't live like a rich man on a poor man's salary. And a lot of us like to do that. And we don't like these inconvenient truths to be told us. See, I speak truth to power, and I don't care what race you are. I don't care what gender you are. I'm going to tell you the truth, whether you like it or not. And I'm going to call you, but if it's a black person, I'm going to call you out. If it's a white person, I'm going to call you out. I don't care about it. I'm going to tell you the truth. And I sit down and I talk to um my family members, younger family members, and I give them little tidbits of information. I said, in your school, you know, the little white kid that you make fun of for wearing the same shoe over and over again while you're in your Michael Jordans that cost about 400, 500 bucks. If you continue to buy the name brand, the high price jeans, the high price outfits, especially when your family does not have the means to do this, do you know when you get older, that same guy that you're laughing at, you'll be working for or applying for a job from? We have to be fiscally more responsible, and stop putting the blame on everybody, especially when you can look and have common sense to do things. Now I see Rashid, hopefully they'll let him speak. Rashid, we're talking about this economic crisis that is underway and that they see coming in the foreseeable future, especially in 2023. What have you to say about the whole situation that is unfolding right now? Do you hear me? Rashid, do you hear me? Now they're messing with it. I guess he can't hear me. But again, we have to be more fiscally responsible. See, a lot of people don't like to accept responsibility because you know how you hear people say, "I'm a
Are
grown
you
man."
there?
Or, well, what comes with being a grown up is responsibility. And a lot of us like to shirk responsibility and point the finger at everybody. But my mom used to tell me this a long time ago. When you point that finger, it's three more pointing back at you. So you have to accept the responsibility of an adult and stop putting everything on the back of everybody else. Yeah, somebody was supposed to do this. Well, if they didn't, then you do it because you know it needs to be done. Right? Rashid, can you hear me? Man, they are really, really, truly bothering him. I bet you they'll disconnect him in just a second. But let's go further um, in this. So as we read this, it says, as of November, as of November, 63% of Americans were living paycheck to paycheck. Now, what is important about that? It's because in the urban community, there's a lot of fiscal irresponsibility for you. Now, let's be honest. Let's be real. Let's call an ace and a spade a spade. And in a lot of urban communities, you're at the bottom rung of the economic ladder, and there's all kind of pressures on you. Now, knowing that, why would you go out if you're living in an apartment and you're paying $2,000 a month, and you have a car note of $500 a month, and you have insurance of another $200? That's that's $2,700. Then you have up bills that. So say for instance, if you're making $3,500 or $3,800 a month, and you're paying out $3,300 a month, that leaves you with a $500 net gain. Now, knowing this, why wouldn't you put some of that $500 away for a rainy day? Why would you go and buy some Jordans that cost $400? Why would you go and pay $80 for jeans just because of a tag on them? Why would you go spend $60 on a shirt that you know you can't afford when you can get 3 for that price? Nice ones. We try to live above our means. This is all across America. But when you're in a bad place economically, like some people in urban America, and I'm not just talking about black people, there are brown people, red people, yellow people, and white people in urban America. All right. And a lot of them are fiscally irresponsible. They will go and blow money on getting hair done, nails done, new shoes, new clothes, when they know they can't afford it. And when the hammer is dropped and they lose their job, or they are laid off, or they have to take time off, or hours are shutting down, then they go into this meltdown, as though they did not see what was coming when all of the signs were shown before. If they're showing you the signs and they're telling you that, okay, this will not only affect urban America, this will affect everybody. Why would you take on more debt? That is not a rational position. That is not a rational thinking. That is not thinking about the future livelihood of your family. You understand? Let's go a little further. And excuse me. It says, as of November, 63% of Americans were living paycheck to paycheck, according to a monthly lending club report, up from 60% of the previous month and near the 64% historic high hit in March. Now, for those of you who are just joining us, and I should have said this before, we had to switch the shows around real quick at the last minute because Scott Bennett, I talked to him on the phone earlier. He sounded real bad, and he had a lot of phlegm and he was doing a lot of coughing and all that. And so he and I agreed to do, he said, give him 24 hours. So he and I agreed to flip the shows and he'll do the show tomorrow. For those of you who are unaware of that. So I'm going to keep saying that as more people join us. I'll keep reaffirming what just took place as we flip the shows. That's why you still see the thumbnail that was supposed to be the thumbnail for tomorrow's show up for today. And that's why you see the thumbnail that was supposed to be for this show up for tomorrow, because of the situation that Scott is in right now. And so we'll check on him tomorrow. And if he's not feeling good tomorrow, I'm going to tell him, hey, man, take some time for yourself. If they'll understand, if not, so be it. Your health comes first. With good health is wealth, right? So I want you to listen to this again. And I see Rashid back in there again. We're going to try to get him. Before I read a little bit more, let me see if I can just.
The 2015 nuclear deal with Iran is dead.
Rashid.
A short conversation with him.
I hear you. Can you hear me? Okay, we'll go further. It says, as of November, 63% of Americans were living paycheck to paycheck, according to a monthly lending report, up from 60% the previous month and near the 64% historic high hit in March. Even high income earners are under pressure. Stop right there. This is what I'm telling you. Now, if you're in urban America and you already know that the resources are very scarce, right? I'm gonna have to mute because he doesn't hear.
Pointing to Iran's crackdown on protesters and support for.
And hold on one second, let me mute it. What are they doing to him? Anyway, hold on one second. Let me see what they're doing to him. Well, this is ridiculous here. And you know what? After this, when the show is over, StreamYard, I have the nerve to ask in a survey, was the show good? Did you incur any problems? Man, anyway, as I said, it says even high earners are under pressure. Lending Club found. Now, let us just take a look at that. If high income earners are under pressure and you are in the middle to lower class when it comes to earnings, tell me why, if it makes good sense, good fiscal sense, good financial sense in the way of family security, in the way of finance security, in the way of living expenses, to incur more costs, to bring in more debt. If high income earners are now feeling the debt bomb breathing down their neck, what sense does it make middle and lower class people to go and get more debt? Right? Especially when they're telling you that they are expecting a significant deterioration in economics in America in the global scene in the first quarter of next year. That is, I mean, seriously, the only way that I can rationally describe it is like going to get a gun and putting it to your head and just shooting to see if any bullets are in there. Common sense is not so common today. Okay, we got an influx of more viewers. I want to say this to you because what's on my screen is not on your screen. So it may show you a few, but it shows me way more than what it showed you. So I want to say this again. As I said, I'll keep saying this until probably the end of the show. We had to flip the shows because, and that's why you see the thumbnail for tomorrow's show still up for today's show, and vice versa. Scott, as I talked to Scott earlier this morning, he was feeling down and under the weather. He was coughing real bad, and he had a lot of phlegm coming up, and so he and I agreed to just flip the shows. And I told him I'll just do an on the spot show. Okay. I'll probably call him later on to check up on him, make sure he's okay. But again, I just want to inform the influx of viewers. And I also said that we now have indisputable proof that YouTube has had an effort to keep us in the same position with subscribers. We've been telling you that for the longest, but we have pictures now about them wiping out between 169 or 179 subscribers within less than a day. A day ago, 2 days ago, or something like that. Less than a day. They did it also with 30-some subscribers on our sister channel. So we have indisputable evidence, and we can show it at no limit of time. Okay. Again, let's go further because we're talking on the economics, and I'm going to try to bring Rashid in. We're going to play a few things also if we get the chance to. So just bear with us. This is an on-the-spot show, and so we're winging it. Okay. Let's go further. It says, even high-income earners are under pressure, Lenny Club found. Of those earning more than six figures, 47% reported living paycheck to paycheck, a jump from the previous month's 43%. So there was an uptick of 4% of higher wage earners now feeling the brunt of incurring debt to their income. Right? Now, again, I ask you, any rational person, if you make $4,000 a month and you see somebody making $50,000 a month, and you see that now they are starting to be frugal with their spending, and they are telling people, well, hey, it's hard. I'm working paycheck to paycheck, and if I lose this job here, I don't know what I'll do. And yet you make $4,000 a month, and your bills add up to $3,800 or $3,300 a month. So you have a $700 amount to play with. Is it rational or is it sane to take on or incur more debt? And if it is not, then why is that a commonplace thing in urban communities? Why aren't they teaching these people fiscal responsibility? You have a church on every block. On every block almost. And they get you in the church. You pay your tithes, you give donations, and they don't have the wherewithal to have classes to teach the youth and the masses about fiscal responsibility. If there's no fiscal responsibility, there's no fiscal empowerment, no economic empowerment. And if you have no economic empowerment, then the people who have economic empowerment will dismiss you. Because as that rap song says, it's all about the cream. Cash rules everything around me, right? So if that is the main object in urban community, then you will have to say that your spiritual leaders are inept, irresponsible, and unworthy of your of you following them in their stewardship, because you're day to day, you're seeing the same outcome. The churches get bigger, and then there grows a whole string of abandoned buildings, abandoned businesses. And you're praying for some spook God to drop down something to you. I mean, it is unfathomable that even in this modern day and age, that you don't hold your leadership accountable. Oh man, let's go further. It says, excuse me, let's go down. It says, sadly, this year many large corporations aren't even waiting until after the holidays. Yeah, true about laying people off and firing them. There was a group of people, what was it? I think 1,500 people. Hold on one second, this is Russian. We're gonna see about that in a minute. We're gonna see, because I'm gonna try to get you back in the booth again. Let's see. We're gonna try this. Rashid was there. He's in the booth. Can you hear me, Rashid? I hear you. Rashid, I hear you. Can you hear me? Yep. What do you have to say on this situation about the economic irresponsibility of the leaders in urban America, especially in a time of an economic downturn? Hopefully they'll allow him to say something. Again, they're freezing him up. So, again, but let's go back to something. Let's go back to something. It says, and I was talking about something real about one corporation. They laid off their employees through email. I believe it was through email. They didn't even wait. They laid them off when everybody got off for a few days. They sent them emails and laid off 1,500 people. Fired them. Lay off is a diplomatic term for firing. Okay? So listen, and you see Google, you see what is it? Amazon. Isn't Amazon supposed to be a rival to Walmart? These are the two of the biggest companies in America and in the world. And they're talking about laying off thousands upon thousands of people and cutting other people jobs, cutting their hours. Now think about if you relied on an X amount of hours to make sure that you're able to pay these bills and able to get this for your children and for your family. That would put you in a bind. Again, when you think about it, and you think about the like, say for instance, if they cut your hours or they lay you off, and then you go to your bank and you have little to no savings in it, right? Then you're going to blame Walmart, or you're going to blame Amazon, or you're going to blame Google, right? But then if you sit down, there's a lot of blame to go around, not just to them. You sit down and you say, okay, how did I spend my last year, this whole year's check outside of bills? And then you go through your closet, and then you go through your children's closet, and then you go through your house, and you see all of this unnecessary stuff that you got. And then if you take it and add up the prices to each one of them, and then you realize, oh my God, I spent tens of thousands of dollars just alone in just this stuff. What if I had not done that and just put this away in a safe deposit box? Not in the banks, because banks are going to fail, and they are failing right now. And they're just, and the government is allowing them to hide the systemic failure for the time being. But think about that. You won't be able to blame Walmart. You won't be able to blame anyone, because you'll have some sense of a little bit more financial security. When I bought Jordans here and the new Jordans there and the Jordans here, and I bought the $150 sneakers here and the $200 jeans here, and I went out to the club and spent $100 here, and not including my outfit, and then all of that stuff adds up. And then you have to think, is that stuff necessary? Especially in an economic downturn. Because common sense tells me that in an economic downturn, you want to preserve more of your earnings for harder times. This is what I'm telling you. There's no accountability in urban America from the leadership. The church, again, there's one on every block. And there's also a pawn shop, liquor store, abandoned buildings and shopping centers. But the church gets its money every day. And then you see these guys, these pastors, with all of this bling bling and driving these big fancy cars, living in a big house when you're barely able to pay your rent. There's no risk, but you want to shine on Donald Trump won't do this and Donald Trump won't do. How about you go talk to your pastor? Because the church is supposed to be there to aid the people of the community, not just financially, which they're supposed to, not just spiritually, which they're supposed to, but they're supposed to edify you through education. Without proper education, there's no true edification. And you just have a church full of zombies, a community full of zombies that are irrational, emotional, and financially unstable in an economic downturn. Now you tell me how you think that's going to work. Huh? Sometimes you got to give a little tough love to the people. Okay? Let's go further. It says, sadly, this year, many large corporations aren't even waiting until after the holidays to give the axe to thousands of highly dedicated employees. There is arguably no good time for companies to lay off employees, of course, but as farewell to my job posts continue to populate LinkedIn, many are wondering, why did they have to do this the week before Thanksgiving or right before Christmas? Despite the job market's overall strength, see the disconnect? Huh? They're telling you that the job market is strong. And they're telling you that while layoffs and firings are continuing to soar, you make that make sense. A job market is strong while people are being fired and laid off. I'm telling you. Well, let's go further. It says, despite the job market's overall strength, big names in tech, including Meta, talking about Facebook, because that's what Facebook is called now, Meta. Platforms include Salesforce Inc. and Amazon.com Inc. have all laid off workers or announced plans to do so in recent months. Thousands of job cuts have also hit other industries, with Ford Motor Company, Walmart Inc., and PepsiCo Inc. all reducing their head counts, leaving many employees to wonder, could I be next? Now, saying that, banks are also closing, and this has been something since 2008. Banks have been closing at an alarming rate, and this is what they do, the mass closure, right? I want you to pay close attention. There's a sleight of hand. You know, when the magician wants to do a trick on you, there's a sleight of hand motion to redirect your attention elsewhere, right? And so what they'll say is, such and such bank has been found unstable. The government is going to put a stress test to it. And when they don't tell you that the stress test failed, and then they'll tell you, well, this bank is closing, and that bank is closing, and they'll tell you, in the last 4 months, 10 banks have closed. That's what, I'm just throwing something out there to you, okay? 10 banks have closed. You say 10 banks, but we got thousands and thousands of banks in America. Yeah, but they didn't tell you how many branches that the bank had. And the bank could have had 30 branches or 40 branches. And if it has 40 branches and 10 have closed, what does that tell you? That's 400, right? Right? So now you're looking at people who work at 400 different locations being laid off and fired. And you're seeing them go belly up. The sleight of hand. Only 10 have closed. Yeah, 10 have closed, but how many branches did each one of them have? You see, the sleight of hand. To try to minimize the catastrophic effect of the failure of the banks, they only give you half of the picture. The misleading, the sleight of hands, the magician's trick. And this is what they're doing all across America. And again, it takes me right back to urban America. And you believe more in this economy than the economists do. So you misspend and misappropriate your finances. You're going to soon find yourself in a very, very, very bad situation. A very bad situation. Because I can tell you about 30% more, but I'm just going to put it at a smaller number. 30% of your spendings is misappropriated. I see it every day. I saw it in different states that I've been in. I saw it in different communities. At least 30% of your spending is misappropriated. And if you look at it, say for instance, you bring home $30,000 a year. That's roughly, we'll say 33%. That's roughly $10,000 a year. That's misappropriated. And $10,000 a year over 10 years is $100,000. That could have been saved to prepare you for the onslaught that is coming. Listen to me good. When this thing melts down, as Gregory Mannarino said in an interview, multiple interviews I did with him, this will be biblical. He said this will cause death on a scale unlike anything you've ever witnessed before. It will be worse than a nuclear explosion. You understand? Now, see, it's one thing when you can't eat. It's another thing when you can't feed your family. When your child is looking at you and you can't feed them because you have no wherewithal to get the things. You have no money, or the money that you have only goes so far because the value has declined so much. Then you go into survival mode, and now you want to go take something that doesn't belong to you. You want to go take something from people who have been fiscally responsible. And if they don't give it to you so that you can secure the life of you and your family, you will threaten their lives and the livelihood of their family. You see the snowball effect of being misguided? Do you see the snowball effect of that? It causes a cascading event, the likes of which you've never seen before, because of fiscal irresponsibility and imprudence. And you should hold your community and your spiritual leaders responsible for not enlightening you and not teaching you on credit and not teaching you on debt. Think about where urban community could be right now if they had leaders that had classes in the community, and it was required, just like a class in school is required. It was required for you to receive any aid, any help, any seat in any organization, that you had to go to these classes to learn about credit, to learn about finance, to learn about bad spending habits, to learn about how to save again up for the day of want. Think about how much different the situation would look than it looks right now. Okay? And the reason I'm telling you about urban America is because you're going to be hit so hard, and everybody is saying it. Think again, we go back to this article when it talks about even high income earners are now feeling the brunt of this. And they're making 100,000, well, 50,000, 100,000, whatever, your community is, because some people are high income earners if they're $50,000 a year. In certain communities, some are higher, 100,000, some are higher when they're 200,000. It's according to the community. But whatever, think about if they are feeling it and you're barely bringing in 20, $30,000 a year. What is going to mean when it comes down on you? You don't want this to surprise you and hurt you and your family. You want to be put in a position that you can win, or that a lot of people say, I want to survive the coming economic the downward spiral or the coming economic collapse. Listen to me good. I don't want to just survive it. I want to thrive during it. There's a difference between surviving and thriving. Surviving means that you're doing just enough to get through it or to get by. Thriving means that you're getting by and you're on a high, and other people are looking at what is going on. How is he able or she able to be feeling so good and doing so good in the midst of all of this craziness, this chaos? Don't you want to be in that position? But then you got to accept responsibility. It's just like, let me tell you something. It's just like these guys that sit out on the corner all day long or sit out and hang with their buddies. They're not all black. They're black, they're white, they're brown, some of them yellow, some of them red. They do this, okay? And they sit out there and they watch everybody go to the store. They watch everybody go by them. And in their mind, I'm going to take what they have. Their mind is not, I'm going to go get what they have by trying to employ the same strategies that these people employ to get what they have. I don't have it. They have it. I don't want to go work for it. So I'm going to go take it from them, and I'll kill you if you don't give it to me. Isn't that something? This is the mind state of America. This is the mind state not only of the lower classes of America, because it didn't start there. This starts from the top and goes down. Look at what goes on in America politics right now. They leverage themselves on the back of other people. They continue to rule through your ignorance. They continue to divide through your ignorance. They want you to be ignorant to a certain extent so that they can stay where they are financially and politically. Look at what happens when they go abroad. They carry that same mind frame. America is stealing Syrian oil every day, Syrian gas every day, convoys of it, taking it back into Iraq, then shipping it off through Turkey or shipping it off through Israel, giving Israel some of it, taking some back to the U.S., selling some abroad as if it's theirs. If you don't give it to me, I'm going to take it. Isn't that the mindset I was just telling you about the average Joe Blow that doesn't want to work and that sits on the corner watching everybody? See, it didn't start from the bottom up. It went from the top down. This is what I call, what Reagan called trickle-down economics. You see? They go over there and pillage and steal the resources. All right, mirror me back here in the domestic situation. You have to watch yourself when you get out your car, because there are people that all day long, all night long, their mind is, I'm going to catch somebody slipping. I'm going to get me a mark. I'm going to do this. And think about if they put that thinking into something constructive, how much further they could go in life. The same goes with the policies of America. Think about if America did that, how much further she could go in life. But she's gone to her extent now. Ain't too much more living after this, because she continues to go in her own rude and wicked ways. To constantly think, what do they call a person that does that? You hear it on the news, you hear it from politicians, you hear it in the community. What do they call them? Thugs and gangsters, right? Why aren't those same terms applied to the American government? Because the people are only following what they see. If the average Joe on the street who only thinks of finding them a mark and stealing and holding people up at gunpoint and taking their resources and their hard-earned money and what they work for, their shoes, their clothes, making them feel insecure and fearing for their lives. If that is a thug and a gangster, what the hell is the American government as she travels around the globe doing that to other people? Isn't she a thug and a gangster? See, these things have to be applied across the board, or else we see hypocrisy and classism and racism. I mean, let's see if I can bring Rashid back in. It seems like every time I mute him, they mute him back. Every time I try to bring him in the stream, they freeze him. Hold on. I'm hitting down. Let me hold on 1 second. Oh, but it can't unmute your guest. The mic isn't. Rashid, your mic isn't connected. My screen is telling me I can't unmute you because you've muted yourself. Unmute your mic. So I have some comments in the comment section, excuse me. Let's see. And I'm going to go to them in just a second. You again, for those of you who are joining us, the stream is going a little slow because again, we were hit by a massive virus on both computers. One went down, and my son managed to fix this one to get it back up until the newer computers come in. So there may be a little delay in me seeing your comments. There may be a little delay in it is ad nauseum. The thumbnail for today is actually the thumbnail that was supposed to be for tomorrow and vice versa. But Scott, as I talked to him earlier this morning, a lot of cough, and and he had the phlegm, a lot of phlegm, and I just told him it would be better for him to do the show, and he agreed that it'd be better for him to do the show tomorrow. So we, at the last minute, we had to flip them. So that's why it still says Hump Days, morning news grind. Okay. So again, man, here we go. Oh, hold on 1 second. We got this spam. Somebody's coming here. Okay. Come on, please stop the spam. Just in the comments instead of listening to the show. Instead of look at this adult dating chat free jackpot blah 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 sex thing. Man, these people are sick in their head in the chat. Let's see, block user. All right, block this user too. Get them out of the chat. All right, now let's go back. And guess what? One of them is named 69xxx.site. That's what I'm saying. People don't have anything. Think about that. I want you to think about this for a moment. People don't have anything better to do with their time in the midst of social discontent, economic downturn, multiple wars and rumors of wars, right? And a great divide within America. They find time to spam chats. You see this is what I'm trying to tell you, the perverseness of America, the perverseness of the Western way. It is like the atmosphere is pervasive across every area of the land. And it's hard to see through it if you're not rightly grounded. You can be enticed into this world of madness. Okay, but again, let's go into it. And I have to read the stuff off of this. So give me a second. I told you we're working with one computer now. So, and let's go a little further. It says, are things really so bad that these giant firms couldn't have waited a few weeks? Happy Thanksgiving. By the way, you're fired. When I was growing up, big companies at least pretended to be compassionate. But now corporate giants seem to feel free to let workers go the instant that their usefulness is over. Layoffs around the holidays are relatively recent phenomenon. In the 70s and the 80s, companies were more cognizant of the optics of putting people out of work during the most wonderful time of the year, says Andy Challenger, a senior vice president with Challenger, Gray, and Christmas a career services and executive coaching firm. It says that sentiment has passed. He says, today we tend to see companies making the cuts when they feel like they need to. Now, mind you, I want you to understand something before I go further. The people who make the cuts have stock in these companies, millions of dollars worth of stock, sometimes tens of millions of dollars worth of stock. They're getting tens of millions of dollars in salary, right? And they see the need to cut the staff because the profit margin. They don't think enough that they have made so much money that they can still live. Hell, if you've been the CEO of this company for 10 years and you're making $10 million plus you have $20 million in stock, why isn't the first thought is, hey, I'm set, I'm good. Let me go into my salary, and in my salary, I can take 2 million of my salary and keep these 5,000, 10,000 people employed. I'm still good. The compassion is not there. This is a materialistic society. Capitalism is materialistic and it's predatory inherently. And so what I have attained is never enough. 10 million is never enough. I gotta have 40 million. 40 million is not enough. I gotta have 400 million. 400 million is not enough. I gotta reach 4 billion. And then 4 billion is not enough. Listen, they let a dollar sign determine their value and their worth. I want to be known as the person that is worth $80 billion. But what about the 30 million people who are barely making it and they are under the $20,000? 4 billion is not enough for you. That's not generational wealth. You can't take the other 76 billion and put institutions to help people understand finance and to help people in need, or to help produce companies or produce products that will in turn produce jobs for these people who are being laid off, because you benefit more when you do that. No, I gotta be worth more because society demands that if I'm worth this, then everybody respects me. Do you understand this? Predatory. Look at America's global policies. Predatory. Look at her domestic policies. Predatory. Again, I liken it to the so-called thugs and gangsters on the street corner. I hit this mark the other day laughing, drinking their beer and smoking their whatever. I hit this mark the other day. I'm going out this weekend. I'll look for me another mark. One mark isn't good enough. I got to have a string of marks. And then when I get so many, I'm going to get a tattoo under my eye or on my arm telling you how many that I've got. Predatory. This is a reflection of the government policies of America and the Western world. I'm going to try to bring Rashid. Rashid, you have to unmute your mic. I can't unmute your mic and say, let me try. Let me see something. Because it's telling me that your mic, I can't unmute your mic. You have to unmute your mic. I can't bring you in until you unmute your mic. It's your mic. I can't bring you up. It won't let me until you unmute your mic. Again, let's go further. While he's trying to unmute his mic, let's go a little further. It says apparently the Washington Post will also be laying off quite a few workers in the days ahead. Now, we talk about Washington Post, we talk about CNN, we talk about Fox News, we talk about MSNBC, we talk about all of these, what we call old media sources. They are forced to lay off a huge amount of their staff. Even Headline News, you remember Headline News? They just one day just came in, CNN just came in and shut the whole news organization down. It was the child of CNN. They came in and just shut Headline News down. All those people had been there for years and decades. They just shut it down. If they don't care about people who are making $200, $300, $400, $500,000, upwards of $1 million a year on that channel. What do you think they think of you who make below $50,000 or $60,000? And yet you're still not getting it. You still want the next Jordans that drop. And you're willing to go out and fight somebody, start a fight in the line for some shoes that you neither need nor is it sound for you to get in this day and time. But let's go further. It says, he says, Mike, I'll try it again. Okay, hold on. Okay, yeah. Go ahead. I know you want to come in. You've been dying to come in. Go ahead and come in, Rashid. I hear you trying to comment, but I can't hear you. I can hardly hear you. You guys get to see it live on the air. You see what they're doing to his mic. And they disconnected him. Well, I tell you what, with the way they act with us, wouldn't you think at 17 million subscribers? Hmm? But my son is working on something for me. We're going to try to put it into effect in the coming weeks or whatever. I have no idea about this tech stuff. I just do my best. So I see him trying to come back in the booth. Hold on 1 second. If he can, it's taking him forever to load up. Device is not connected. Now it's connected. Now it won't show him. Hopefully he'll appear in the booth. But let's go further with the article. It says, when staff members learned that job cuts would soon be coming, they were not happy. Needless to say, the Washington Post is far from alone. Oh, here he is right here. Let's see if he has something to say. Let's see if they'll allow him to speak. Go ahead, Rashid. I know you want to speak on some of this stuff. They're not allowing him to speak. His mic is wide open. So I don't understand why they're not allowing him to speak. When they do this, they usually drop him off as soon as he starts trying to speak. So I don't understand. But we'll continue. Hopefully, to show us we will go a little bit longer. Even if it's just to give him a couple minutes to speak, we'll try to go a little bit longer. But check this out. It says, in fact, several other very large media companies have also recently announced cutbacks. Of course, the news of the layoffs come amid a horrible backdrop of the media industry at large. I was just talking about CNN. Look what it says. In recent weeks, CNN has laid off hundreds of staffers. I didn't know that. I thought it was, maybe 100. Hundreds of staffers. Gannett, I used to work for Gannett. Gannett has cut 200 staffers. NPR has said it needs to find $10 million in savings, and other organizations have implemented moves to slash costs. I worked at Gannett. I was the first, in this city, I was the first person to ever go from the bindery to the press man, to become a press man. And I did it with a work ethic within a matter of 2 to 3 months. And here. So I used to work for Gannett Offset. It was called Gannett Offset. But here we are. It goes, and the pay differential is way different from a bindery worker to a press man. And I did it because I had both departments fighting over me, and I was where the money was at the time. But Rashid, I see you moving. So they muted him again. Let's see. Will it unmute him? Hold on 1 second. I see your movement. So evidently, oh man, come on, you gotta be. I'm trying to unmute him. I wish I could just let you guys see from my end, and you'll see I'm trying to unmute him, but they won't allow me to unmute him. Hold on, Rashid. I'm unmute mic. I just unmute. Oh, now it's saying your mic is muted. Your mic is muted. Yours. He's working on his. He's trying to unmute his mic. So let's go. Let's read a little further and let him try to unmute his mic. It says Where do we leave off at? Okay. Even though so many big names have been slashing workers, the government has continued to insist that everything is just fine. This is what I'm telling you, the sleight of hands. Again, we go back to that analogy I gave you about the banks. They will tell you that 10 banks, they'll say, oh, the economy is booming, it's prosperous, the job number is down. And then you'll get things and say, okay, well, these people are slashing jobs, they're laying off people, they're doing this and doing this. So now the government removes the layoffs from the unemployed. Okay. And then you say, okay, the banks. Oh, it was just 10 banks that closed down. I knew they were going to do that. I knew that they were going to do to them. I knew it. So and you say, okay, 10 banks. That I thought it was going to be more brutal than that. And then you say, well, let me look into each one of these banks. And then you say, well, dang, each one of these banks have 30 or 40 branches. And then if they have 40 branches and that's 400 banks. In reality, mathematics tells us, even though, because each branch serves a different area, right? And even though the entity is of 40 different branches is one entity, but when you do the math and you look at it in real terms, and you have 10 of those banks doing that, that's 400 in reality. So the sleight of hand, the slight movement, the redirection, the magician, that's what the American government is a magician. And what they're trying to do is fascinate you with Walt Disney. And what I mean by that is, you know how Walt Disney is the so-called wonderland of imagination, and this is what America does. This is what the government does. They want to keep you focused over here while they move funds from here to here. You don't see them financially, do you? Do you? Now, congressmen and women are supposed to make $200 and some $1,000 a year, something like that. Now, tell me, how can they continue to have these vacation homes and these other homes and all of this other stuff on that amount of money? That's why the lobbyists pay them. That's why they're in the pockets of the lobbyists. That's why they formulate and make policies that benefit the corporations who are paying their other salaries. This is corruption at the highest level, and it has been legalized while America tells everybody else how corrupt this nation is, and this nation is, and that nation is. This is institutionalized corruption. How in the hell can you form a coherent and policy consequence when you are in the pockets of the corporations who benefit from policies that are the antithesis to what your constituents want? Correct. You tell me that. Let's see what Rashid said. Try to come back on. Try to come back on. Let me tell you what he just said. All right, let me tell you what Rashid just said. Rashid said, I guess this is one way to shut me up. He said, I'm mute on my mic said, it said, well, excuse me, mute my mic so I can't say anything. He says that StreamYard is muting his mic. And he says, my mic says unmuted. Now on my end, it says that I can't unmute him because he has to unmute him. And he says, or every time he tries to get on, they kick him off the screen. See, I'm not making this up, text message. But again, you think about that. How can you make sound policies that are to the benefit of your constituency when the corporations' policies that they want or the antithesis or diametrically opposed to the benefit of the constituency? Now, the constituency voted you in, but the corporations are patting in your pockets. You need money for re-election. You need money to live this lifestyle that you're now getting accustomed to. Now you see why the people spend 10 and 20 and 30 years in Congress, in the Senate, and in politics in America, because they too are leeches. And they use the ignorance of the masses to fatten their lives. They suck the blood out of the masses. And do you notice that anyone talking about change, anyone talking about doing something that is beneficial to the people, and they are able to move the people, do you notice that once they are in office, they don't change the system changes them. The system makes them fall in line just like their predecessors, right? This shows you just how inherently corrupt and fascist that the American political system is. When corporations and government policy become one and the same, and we see that because they have lobbyists up there, right? When corporation and government policy become one and the same, what is that called? Look it up. Fascism. So you're living in a feudalist, fascist state. And then they offer you some semblance of change in this political figure. But when you look deeper into that political figure and you look at the policies that political figure made, they may have done 2 or 3 or 4 things that they said they were going to do. That's to keep the masses. That's to keep them. But then when you look at the totality of their political career, you look at what they just fall in line with their predecessors. But they keep up the rhetoric to keep the people fired up for change. The rhetoric is strong, but the policies are weak. The magician's sleight of hand. Isn't that right? I'm just being real with everybody. Again, let's see. Going back to something that I played on the show before. Remember what we were talking about. I'm reading this article from the Economic Collapse blog, and we're talking about the fiscal situation that America and the Western world now finds themselves in. And I was talking to you about the situation that you see urban America in, and how the leadership has failed. Not just the leadership in Washington, not just the leadership at the state level, not just the leadership in the county level or the civil level or the city level or the community level. But the community level. And I'm talking about in your community, how your leaders have failed you in every step, at every step, in every turn. And now you're in such a tenuous position that when the economic downturn gets even more intense, you stand to lose even more, because the people have fit off your innocence or off your caring, your love. They take that and they exploit it to such a degree. And now you find yourself in an untenable situation financially. I'm going to play something. I got to go back to this clip that I played a while ago. I want you to listen to Mr. Peter Schiff.
Well, all of last year, as the government printed trillions of new dollars, our Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, who used to run the Fed and is therefore responsible for inflation, assured us, no, this is not going to cause inflation. Watch.
We've had several months of high inflation that most economists, including me, believe will be transitory. I personally believe that this represents transitory factors.
Are higher prices here to stay?
I believe it's transitory, but I don't mean to suggest that these pressures will disappear in the next month or two. It is important that we monitor it carefully, but I believe fundamentally, that this is something that will settle down.
Transitory.
Transitory.
Takes a lot of brass for Janet Yellen to describe herself as an economist. Not an economist. She's a ridiculous figure who does not get the credit she deserves for screwing up in a very serious way the U.S. economy. Well, this week, finally, in the face of overwhelming evidence, she had to admit she was wrong. You can't deny it anymore. The economy's in serious trouble. The head of J.P. Morgan Chase, that would be Jamie Dimon, just told investors that an economic hurricane is on the way. Watch this.
I said there's storm clouds, they're big storm clouds, it's a hurricane. Right now it's kind of sunny, things are doing fine. Everyone thinks the Fed can handle this. That hurricane is right out there down the road coming our way.
Peter Schiff is an actual economist. of Euro Pacific Capital. He joins us tonight. Peter, thanks so much for coming on. Jamie Dimon is a pretty understated guy most of the time. Hurricane, do you agree with that?
Well, I do, except I think it's going to be a Category 5 hurricane, so I think he's sugarcoating it a bit.
Oh. And what, if you were in charge, if you were Janet Yellen, you were the Treasury Secretary, what would you do to avert it or lessen its effects right now?
Well, unfortunately, there's no way to avert it. I mean, but what we have to do is deal with it in a responsible way, something that Janet Yellen has never been a part of. She's, complaining about inflation, but she helped create the inflation. When she was chair of the Federal Reserve, she kept interest rates at zero for half of her term. And then when she finally started to raise them, it took her 2 years to get to 1.25. And then if you go back to her tenure as the president of the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, she was there during the housing bubble and the financial crisis. And at the peak of the housing bubble, she assured the nation in several speeches that there was no housing bubble. And then she went on to say, even if there was a bubble, if she was wrong and it popped, it would do no damage to the U.S. economy. So she was incompetent at the Fed, and she's still incompetent as Secretary of the Treasury.
Well, yeah. I mean, and that was demonstrable. This was the most shocking, from my perspective, the most shocking appointment that Joe Biden made. How in the world could he have appointed Janet Yellen, of all people on planet Earth, Treasury Secretary? How did that happen?
Well, it's all politics. But, had he not appointed her, he might have appointed somebody equally bad. I mean, there's so many bad people to choose from because they pick these people for political reasons. It's not because they actually know anything about the economy. Biden wants somebody who's going to validate his political agenda, even if that political agenda is detrimental to the economic health of the United States.
That is all. I wish I could say that's not true, but it's so clearly true. Peter Schiff, I appreciate your perspective. Thank you very much.
So we have that. Now you heard her constantly saying, "Oh, inflation is transitory. Inflation is transitory." On every interview, inflation is transitory. The word transitory means this right here, according to the dictionary on Google: not permanent, temporary, transient, brief, short. And now we found out that she was lying to you. This is what I'm saying. They exploit your ignorance. They know that you don't understand what's going on. So what they do, they exploit your ignorance for political and economic gain. Let me see if I can bring Rashid in one more time because he popped back up on the screen. See if they'll allow him to talk. Rashid, I hear you. I know you want to add your 2 cents. Go ahead and say something. Muted him again. Oh my God, you got to be kidding me. Hold on 1 second, Rashid. Let's see if I can unmute your mic. It says, I can't unmute your mic. Your mic is muted. I know, right? I'm gonna take a picture of it. So I can send it to you. Hold on 1 second. Let me see. I'm gonna hold on 1 second. All right, let me try it. Now it's unmuted. Go ahead and say, now it's unmuted. Go ahead. You there? It's muted. Come on, you got to be kidding me. Now look, I'm gonna take that. Let's see. Maybe I'll take it sideways. I can get it better. Okay. I'm gonna show the people. Okay. Now let me see. I'm going to show it on the air. Now, look here. Hold on. Let's see. You'll see that light right there. That one's me. That's shining on me. Hold on. Let me see if I can do it better. Look, Rashid. Now you see that mic muted? That's you, the muted one. I'm trying. Let me try one more. Let me see if I can take another picture of when it says that your mic is muted. Hold on 1 second. Okay, let's see. Give me a second. Everybody that's watching the broadcast, give me 1 second. Come on, where's? Will it allow me to even click it? Rashid, it's not even allowing me to click on you. What the heck? Hold on. All right, there we go. Let's see if I can get it real quick. Boom. Got it. Got it. Now let me hold on everybody. I'm trying to. All right, you have to look close because the glimmer is going to be on there, but I'll look close and up is going to be on your right side because it's on my left side. So it's going to be at the top right side. You'll see can't unmute mic. It says because they chose to unmute. They have. What did I say? Because they chose to mute themselves. I want you to look close. Right. Hold on. Right up there. So every time you talk, it goes to this. And then every time I try to unmute you, it says I can't unmute it because you're muting yourself. And you're telling me that on your end it says that you're unmuted. The people are seeing this live on the air. So, I mean, but we'll keep trying this. Let me keep trying to unmute you real quick. I tell you what, do this. Go out and then as you come into the booth, unmute your. I can't unmute your guests because they chose to mute themselves. Yeah, that's what it says. Can't unmute your guests because they chose to mute themselves. Go out and come back in and look at your mic and see if it's unmuted. And then if it's unmuted, do this, and I'll try to bring you right in. But so Miss Janet Yellen telling her slew of lies about what she sees happening in the economic conditions that are now facing America. Now, I want you to think about the inflation. When she was talking about it was transitory. And at the time, people were losing their job. Inflation was going up sky high, and it still is. And now they're trying to even mask it. They call it shrinkflation. I've been saying that for the longest, though. And what they'll do, this is in the water bottle. This is lavender. Well, the other kind of blue lavender tea my wife makes and stuff. So look, check this out. So in this bottle, right? Let me go back a little bit. In this bottle, what they'll do, this part right here will make a curve in the bottle and cut off about that much of it. So the bottle will still be the same, but the curvature under the bottom will erase about that much of your drink, right? And they'll do that as long as they can. And then when they can't do that anymore, then they'll start offering you smaller sizes and they'll try to make you believe that you're getting a deal on it. They'll have it up there. You pay 50 cents for this. All right. I'm just giving you a number. I'm just throwing some. You pay 50 cents for this. But then they put a curvature up in there. It says Rashid is unmuted right now. A curvature in there. Then it's still 50 cents. All right. But then the inflation continues to go up. And then before you know it, the bottle is this big and they'll tell you a deal of 4 for $4. You know, this is how they try to mask inflation. Let me bring Rashid in before they mute him again and say something. I hear him, but they're not showing his face up here. This is what's all right, Rashid, go ahead and say something. His mic is unmuted. Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. They're really messing with this man's sound. They're really messing with his camera, everything.
Oh, you can hear me?
Unbelievable. Yes, go ahead.
Go ahead on with the show, brother. Go ahead on with the show. Don't worry about me.
No. Say something. Tell the people have been waiting to hear you. Go ahead.
Every time
They
yes.
muted him again.
Every time you say one word, you just throw me off.
They're cutting you up now. They're cutting your words up now. What do you think about and say it slow? Maybe we can get get you to say something slow so that they won't be able to mess with it. Say it slow. What you think about what's going on economically? Continue. Are you there? Are you there? Man, they're really messing with him. Okay, listen. Maybe he'll jump back in. Maybe they'll allow him to say something shortly. But as you can see, I left this. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Comment. Yeah.
They do not want him to talk. I can't understand you. So we'll continue on, and maybe his mic will straighten out or whatever. But let's go a little further. So what I'm saying to you is this: I was talking to you about inflation and shrinkflation, and think about this. With all of this going on, does it make sense at all for America to be sanctioning nations, especially Russia, where she gets most of her fertilizer from?
Go
ahead. I paused because I heard it come through clear for a change. They're messing with me. Anyway, I'll mute him a second because I want to get this thought out. Does it make sense for America at this time? Now it's saying I can't unmute him because he muted himself. Anyway, where I tell you, does it make sense for America in this position with rising inflation? Remember that there are multiple farms that are going bankrupt, and farmers are killing their cattle because they can't afford to feed them. Think about the situation that happened in California. There was a big write-up. We read it on one of the shows recently about what's going on with the farming there, the vegetables and stuff. And remember that California makes up 55% of all the vegetables in America. All right. We see a diesel gas crisis, right? Does it make sense to sanction all of these nations like Venezuela, Iran, Russia, China? Now, China produces in some type of way 90 to 90-some% of all goods on America's shelves. Russia accounts for a huge portion of America's fertilizer, what they call potash. I think that's what it's called. The sunflower seed oil, sunflower oil, excuse me. And America buys believe it or not, America buys huge amounts of gas and oil from Russia. So in the midst of a spiraling economy, a widely rejected currency that is on the international stage, relation, economic turmoil at home, wars, America spending another $1 trillion on the war budget on the books, not including the money that she spends on her black books, right? Massive layoffs, massive businesses and bank closures, farms belly up, right? There's a growing homeless crisis. There's a growing poverty in America. And then you want to pick more wars and you want to alienate nations like Syria and Russia and Iran and Venezuela and China, especially China, which doesn't make any sense because China is your largest lender, largest investor, largest financer, largest producer and trade partner, and the largest manufacturer. If you can make sense out of that, you let me know something. Because to me, that sounds like unsound, irrational, insane doctrine by the political class of people. And they are running, they're jogging. You know how people say, I want to run, I want to run, I want to get in good health. Yeah, they're running, but they're running their country into the ground. That's where they're running. This is what we're seeing on a live, in living color stage. The collapse of American power, the collapse of the American Republic. And it's happening in real time. Real time. I want you to listen to this. I haven't heard this clip, but it's on my dashboard for a reason. And I think I might have heard it and it might have slipped my mind. But I see a tag of it that says dollar is dying. So this will be the first time I heard it in a while too. But if it says the dollar is dying, then that is in concert to what we were just talking about with inflation, the so-called transitory inflation. And that'll be in line with the economic downward spiral, the implosion of the housing market, the implosion of the car market, the used car market, the implosion of the job market, right? All of these black swans make the road ready for an economic collapse, the likes of which you've never seen before. And think about this. Were it not for food stipend and food aid right now, and food vouchers right now, the lines for food would make the Great Depression look like child's play right now. People don't realize that. America is masking that through food stipends and food coupons and food aid and what is it, food stamps and stuff like that. Without that, because they didn't have that at the time of the Great Depression. Without that, the lines would be 5-10 times longer than the lines of the Great Depression. That shows you the position that we are in now economically. Okay? Let me play this clip, and then I'm going to go into the chat because I see a couple of messages in the chat. All right?
Dr. Francisco, just before the break, Clive made the point that you're trusting the medium rather than the person. When it comes to the United States, I don't trust the person or the medium. I'd be happy if I never bought another American thing or saw another American dollar because I don't like bullies. Isn't this partly the end of the era of the bully?
I think multipolarity is here. I think that's the key, and the dollar is dying. There is no question about it. Let me give you some figures that are quite important. The GDP of the United States is 24 trillion. The debt, the public debt, is 30 trillion. The difference between the total gross domestic product and the debt is 6 trillion. 6 trillion is equivalent to the combined GDPs of the whole of the Latin American countries together, including Brazil. That gives you an idea of the problem. That's number one. There is a US debt clock, which you can find in the internet. I ran it before coming to the show. And I ran it for 5 minutes. And in those 5 minutes, the amount of debt that increased in the United States was 8 billion. Now, 8 billion is, if you have 3 of them, that is the GDP of Nicaragua. If you have 5 of them, that's the GDP of Bolivia. The United States have a very serious problem of infrastructure. Their productivity is low. The number of bridges in the United States that require urgent repair, not repair, urgent repair, is 65,000. The quality of the road, according to the American Society of Civil Engineers, they produce a report every year, 42% of the roads are mediocre or in need of repair. The electricity plants, airports, and so on, everything is a complete mess. The United States doesn't have high-speed trains. It doesn't. Sorry to say like this, even Spain has them. So that gives you an idea of the problem. And the United States economy is growing at a rate of something between 2 and 1%. The Chinese economy, with all the problems, is growing at a rate of 7%. So that means in the next 10 years, arithmetically, the US economy is going to be 20% bigger, and the Chinese economy is going to be 70% bigger. Now, if you take what countries have done regarding this question of the dollar, possibly people do not know, but China and Japan are conducting their foreign trade in their currencies. Iran is conducting their business in no dollar. Russia and China, Iraq, and many other countries. But the recent decision by the Saudi Arabia to actually conduct the selling of their oil to China in yuan. Now, China buys 25% of the total output of Saudi Arabia. This is 30 billion. The United States purchases only 7%. So if you keep going down, you can see that there is already a multipolarity of initiatives. What we don't have is the international architecture, financially speaking, so that there is a system which is coherent, is international, it works, it has legal security that gives you legal confidence that if you enter into a transaction in that system, you know, whatever it is going to be respected. That has to happen, but it's beginning to take place already. So the United States is in a real trouble, and it doesn't have any possibility. I just looked at the budget that Joe Biden presented to Congress for 2023. It's a very long document. It has three key components. Number one, domestic security is going to give to the police domestically huge amount of resources. The organization Black Lives Matter said this is not what we want. You know what happened when they have resources. And basically, Biden is trying to get votes from the right by doing this. That's number one. Number two is international security. He increased the budget, the military budget, to $773 billion, which is 30 billion more than in the previous administration. And surprisingly, he's going to apply a tax of 20% on the fortunes of 100 million upwards, which is going to produce 360 billion, and is going to reduce the budget deficit and the deficit of the United States by 1 trillion in 10 years. So it's totally useless. And in order for this budget to be passed, he needs to win it in the House, in Congress. He's got a majority.
Control over which he may well lose in November.
Certainly, but at the moment, if we were to propose it, he will pass it in the House, but he will not be able to pass it through Congress because there is 50-50. And Democrat right-wing, Joe Manchin, already said he's not going to support it. So it's already, not only is useless as a proposal to recover the economy, but it's already dead before it begins. So that gives you an idea of the problems that they have. So the issue, strategically, from their point of view, is this. Do they continue waging war against everybody else? And who else is there to wage war? Their calculation, it seems to me, was if we are able to bully Russia and make them accept our way, and then later on we'll continue with that until, you know, we produce something equivalent to regime change, isolating China thereby, and therefore the next move is to attack China. And this one hasn't worked. The next one is certainly not going to work. So the United States is desperate because it's facing a very serious challenge. Number one, energy and resources from Russia to Europe, which really needs them, and the Belt and Road Initiative by China, which is at the moment is in the region of $5 trillion. So therefore, facing with this huge, very attractive embrace from these two nations, have huge resources, one natural resource, the other one technology, markets, money, and credit, and investment, infrastructure, is very difficult to say no. So the only possibility for them is war, war, war.
So, do you see that this was before the election? Do you see everybody is talking about this? This was a round forum of nations in West Asia about the situation that America is facing with the dollar collapsing. I told you that, you know, they just announced that maybe a week ago, Xi Jinping decided to go to visit 30 regional states in North Africa and the Middle East. And Saudi Arabia agreed with him. But I told you that this had already taken place a while ago. Told you this. This was just the cementing of the deal. Do you see this took place long before that, before the election, right? Xi just took his trip. But I told you this, that Saudi Arabia was already accepting yuan and trade with China for oil. This is why America has upped the influx of terrorism in the region. And this is why her and the UK are really trying to, quote unquote, fight terrorism over there. And if you look closely, all of the terrorists are prepositioned in strategic areas of that region where China does heavy trade or investment at. That is no accident. That is no accident at all. So she's trying to destabilize North Africa and the Middle Eastern region as to destabilize yuan trade. And at the same time, she's trying to cause a great divide between China and the Asian nations, and trying to put China against South Korea, China against Japan, China against the Philippines, China against Indonesia. She's trying to use all of these things to divide them as to not allow for them to do trade in yuan. But here's a kicker, as you heard the man. The trade that Japan and China does with each other is done in yuan and yen. It's crazy, right? And we see multiple nations that are moving outside of the dollar. And he says, and the guy said something very, very, very interesting and very important. He said that there is no possibility for America to get out of this. I'm paraphrasing, but he said no possibility. Yeah. And so that means there's a fat chance, like this is, that she'll be able to get out of this. I'm telling you, we're watching the decline and fall of the American empire, and it is right here for all to see. I'm gonna play another clip real quick. My daughter just came in from I have my children are homeschooled, but I have an autistic daughter too. And she just came in and she wants to give me a hug. So I'm going to play this clip. I'm going to give my baby a hug, and I'll be right back on this thing after the clip. So listen close to this. All right.
Here now, Steve Forbes Media Chairman. Steve, always great to see you, especially on a Friday, and especially when we come in with a soundbite like that, because the president is, or seems to be, like he's in denial at this point. He also said the economy is great after the 2.6% GDP number, which, when taken on average with the two negative quarters of GDP that we had, we are seeing anemic growth in this country at best. He loves to say we had inherited the problem. He actually said their inflation is coming down, and while it may be technically, it's still pretty high and it's hurting people. Your thoughts?
Well, I wonder whether he's trying to become a comedy writer for Comedy Central or maybe Saturday Night Live when he spews stuff like that. And but the audience isn't laughing. And in terms of the 2.6%, if you look at final sales, which is what economists do, the economy is dead in the water. And certainly you see that in other statistics. On the inflation front, he ignores that inflation was 1.5% when he took office. The economy was growing at over a 4% growth rate when he took office. And look at it today. And gasoline, we all know, was $2.39 when he took office. Now it's over $3.80 and rising again. And it's the heating oil, that's going to get worse this winter. So all this happy talk is one reason why the Democrats are in trouble, because people don't trust the president of the United States.
Yeah, and I said this today earlier on the air. I said most people would look at this and say, this is a referendum on me, President Biden. And they would say, obviously, something is not resonating with the American people right now. He can wait the 11 days and see if the red wave is actually a red wave, and it comes, Steve. But some people would do some self-reflection and look in the mirror and say, maybe I have something to do with this. He doesn't seem to be doing anything like that.
I think part of it is he's so defensive. He knew what President Obama said about him, that everything he touches turns to you-know-what. And I feel that he's trying to show, oh, I'm a great president. I'm getting all this great stuff passed. So I think he's convinced himself in his inner circle, which is in a real bubble, impenetrable bubble for now. Voters will change that in a day and a half, week and a half or so. But so they're in denial. They think they're doing great stuff. Yeah. And that's why, President Clinton thought he was doing a great job in '94 and got shellacked.
Right.
Barack Obama got a wake-up call in 2010. Joe Biden's going to get one, and rightly so. Hard times are coming, and he's really responsible for it.
Yeah, and Clinton came around. He came around. He understood what was going on. This is not a president that's acknowledging the problem.
They see something real bad, and this is stuff that I recorded right before the elections, because I wanted you to see what the discourse was. I wanted you to hear the discourse. I wanted you to understand the atmosphere at the time, and I wanted you to see that everybody sees something horrible, something terrible underway. It is just the uninformed who are the ones that are not looking at the reality. They are preoccupied with the basketball season or the football or something like that. They're preoccupied with that, and they're not really realizing that we are a few steps away from total Armageddon and chaos and mayhem. This is real. You hear these people with influence, with connections, with power, telling you that they see something dreadful on the way and that there's no rebounding for the American economy. They're telling you this. I'm gonna look for something. I want to play something for you. Let me see if I can find this real quick. I want to just show you something, and I'm gonna tell you why this is going on. Okay. So there's a power struggle going on for the emergence of a new world and the resistance of the old world. And a lot of people see BRICS as the center of a new world, or a center of an alternative reality from the Western parasitic rules-based order. So when we look at it in that term, what we're realizing is that you have a king, as Rashid says, that's been sitting on the throne for so long and has commanded the world. And now that they no longer have the authority, they are willing to fight with everybody and everything to try to maintain their control of the throne. While it's an uppercut guy saying, listen, you're incoherent, your policies are not feasible in this day and time. We're looking for something more equitable, more just to everybody. And so you step down and abdicate, or we're going to overthrow you. So there's a clash now of societies, a clash of civilizations, a clash of worlds. That's what we're living in. I'm gonna post something. Cece put some quotes in the some things she was talking about the job market. I'm gonna put that up, and then I'm gonna come back and play because I just want you to see just the situation in the job market and how it is affecting everything. I'll do that right after I play the clip. Okay, I want to play a few clips, but what I'm going to do, I'm gonna play this clip, and then after I come back off the clip, we'll put up her post, and then we'll come back with a couple more clips. So pay close attention to this right here. All right, this is
my talking points, but let's start with this possibility and news items floating around that Saudi Arabia could perhaps join the BRICS here. Just for some context, the group, known by the acronym for its 5 core members, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, consists of more than a quarter of the world's GDP and about 40% of the global population. What's interesting to me, Willem, and this is my take, it was almost started as a marketing ploy back in the day, almost like, let's just put these group of misfits over here, you can't sit with us at lunch crowd. But now they've become almost a sleeping giant. Or perhaps not really sleeping.
Well, it's a waking giant, actually, because if you look at the current situation, and what always struck me, that if you look at the countries who applied the sanctions against Russia, if you follow the Western press, it's like all countries are applying sanctions to Russia now. But if you study it in detail, it's just the West. It's just the West. It's a few dozen countries, and there are over 140 countries who don't join the sanctions. That this doesn't make them Putin supporters, but I think they want to stay neutral. They're fed up with the Western double standards, and now more and more of these countries from Latin America, Middle America, Africa, the Middle East, and Asia have chosen to join the BRICS alliance. We've seen Algeria joining, we've seen Argentina joining. And there are rumors that more and more countries want to join. And now we have the BRICS really becoming a very, powerful alliance. And what I always say, it's the West against the rest of the world now, and that's very, very significant, whether Saudi joins or not.
So we've heard that. We're going to come back with another clip, but I want to get to just a comment or two of CC. Let me highlight this real quick. She says the biggest mess is they have jobs posted but refusing to hire for those jobs. I've interviewed over 20 accounting jobs. Now, that is true. You know what? I'm glad. See, I'm telling you, the chat is awesome. And the moderators are awesome. I'm telling you this. This is an aspect that I neglected to speak about. And she just brought it up. They are posting jobs that they know that they're not hiring for. This is a scam. What they're doing is trying to make it appear as though, what I say, the sleight of hand. They're trying to make it appear that there's multiple jobs out there to get. But this is just a facade. They're doing that to try to keep the people believing that there's economic prosperity. But in reality, the economy is steadily in decline. Also, let me see it right here. It says, once they see me, then they take down the job. These people are scandalous and deserve to lose everything. Yeah, that's what they do. That's what they do. It is again, I don't know how many times I have to say this. They are magicians. And they are doing the sleight of hand. They're misdirecting you. They're trying to get you to believe that there are jobs over here, when in reality, they're trying to figure out how can they produce the jobs. They're trying to figure out how can they fill certain, make certain positions to fill when they don't have the money or the positions to make it. They are doing what the magicians do to wow the people. Oh, it can't be too bad. I just passed through this town. I saw 6 or 7 restaurants or 6 or 7 businesses hiring. That's what the people will say. They're not thinking. They're just passing and they're seeing all of these for hire signs out there. They're not telling you that 50 to 100 people went into each one of them, and each one of them got rejected. And you might find out of 200 people, one might got accepted, and now they're rearranging the musical chairs to try to still present to the average public that there are multiple jobs out here for the people. That's a trickster, a magician. That's what clowns do, right? That's what they do. So let's go a little further. I want to, and because I know you guys are giving me your attention, but I want to get these last couple clips in to show you that there's a big change underway. And then when you see and you hear what is being said to you, right? You can then understand and connect the dots to why America is destabilizing Latin America, why she's trying to destabilize the strategic areas of North Africa and the Middle East, and why she's over there trying to start a war between Russia and Ukraine. But I told you guys that when war starts, it'll be over those Baltics and the Caucasus, right? I told you guys that. See what's happening. I told it before they ever fired a bullet at Ukraine, right? And also, while they are in Asia trying to destabilize trade and trying to hype up the China threat, you know, and what's crazy is, let me go back a second, how Western media talks about China's debt trap in Africa. Now, I want you to think about the irony of this. America and European nations are talking about some type of debt trap in Africa. When they colonized Africa, exploited Africa, what, King Leopold killed 60 million Congolese. Hell, nobody says nothing about that. King Leopold did that. What about all the millions that were slaughtered? The resources that were stolen? Hell, Elizabeth's crown, the crown that you see, Elizabeth, who passed away recently, of Britain, the big diamond, that's from Africa. The jewels in her scepter are from Africa, off the blood and sweat and the torture and the labor of Africans. All of the most precious jewels and the crowns are from Africa. And you want to talk about China's debt trap? How about you return the artifacts and all of those resources that you stole? How about you release those African nations of the debt that you still hold over their head? that's you pointing the finger as a misdirection. You want the people to think that China is colonizing Africa. How in the hell can you open your mouth about colonization when you would colonize those nations and you went in there and you raped, pillaged, slaughtered, and stole? These are obvious things. So if China wants to invest, let them. At least they're helping them. You didn't do nothing but take. So the robber is mad that somebody is actually helping the person that they robbed. And so you look for misdirection. Man, if you don't leave me with that foolishness, like they say on the streets, miss me with that. And so they see China as the anchor to a new world. They see Asia as the anchor to a new world order. That's why they try to divide these things, these areas into sections. They'll tell you the Middle East and North Africa. But really, all of that is West Asia. West Asia. So if they can divide, then guess what they can do? They can conquer. That is a proven technique of the Western world, to divide and conquer. So when you see BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, you see an organization spanning the globe. And then you see with Brazil representing Latin America, now you see in Argentina and Bolivia, Venezuela reaching out to join the BRICS. When you see South Africa leading for the continent of Africa, then you see Nigeria, Algeria, you see at one time Libya, and you see all of these other African nations reaching out for the BRICS. Then when you look at China and India, you see all of the Eastern nations reaching out for BRICS. Russia being a hedge of Eurasia, a small portion in Europe, the vast majority of it in Asia. You see nations that are pivot right there are reaching towards BRICS in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, because they're tired of the so-called rules-based international order, which is an order of exploitation and power, and decisions go to the few at the expense of the many. So let's listen to what they have to say about this thing right here. We just listened to that, so let's listen to this.
Whether Saudi joins or not.
And is this, the epicenter of the reset you speak about?
Yeah, well, when I wrote The Big Reset in 2013, that thesis was about finding a new anchor for world's financial system. So finding a successor for the US dollar. Well, that could be a BRICS currency currently being developed, as Putin has said. But it also contains of debt restructurings, and we could see a gold revaluation as well and a dollar devaluation. So this plays out according to my thesis.
So let's dig a little deeper. I found a research paper, entitled "Russia and Global Affairs." Now, keep in mind, it's written from the optics of a Russian, Fyodor Lukyanov. I hope I'm not butchering his name. He's the editor-in-chief of Russia and Global Affairs, works for the National Research University at the Higher School of Economics in Moscow. And just want to share with you, Willem, a few things he wrote. He says, the events of 2022 initiated by Moscow have clearly divided the world into a Western part that rallies against Russia, while others take a wait-and-see approach. The West used the entire arsenal of pressure at its disposal to punish Moscow and demonstrate how disobedience is punished. The result was quite unexpected. All the other countries, especially the big BRICS states or those claiming a role in the world of their own, not only distanced themselves from joining the Western campaign, but outright rejected it. And here's the part I think is crucial. This is where it became clear that BRICS has considerable potential. It might be a rather fuzzy grouping, but it's better prepared than anything else for those interested in alternative schemes of international order. Do you agree with this statement?
Well, actually, in The Big Reset, I made a revised edition in 2016. And I mentioned that Moscow and Beijing will seek a reconstruction of the current world order. And that's the quote you just gave is a perfect illustration for that. So what we can conclude now that we have the Western countries, let's say 1.5 billion people who support the sanctions, who support these Western actions against Russia. And you have over 6 billion people who live in countries who don't support the sanctions and who are behind this BRICS alliance or tend to be positive towards the BRICS alliance. And this has resulted in a few research papers from major banks, as you might remember, Zoltan Pozsar of Credit Suisse, writing that we are seeing the start of Bretton Woods 3.0. We've had a piece of research coming from ING Bank saying that the BRICS might be a new name in the reserve currencies, because that ING analyst, he said that the BRICS might start to use a new world currency, a new reserve currency. So the signs are everywhere.
So he said the signs are everywhere. Now he used some terms in there that I'm gonna get to in just a second. He says that people are saying that we're looking at Bretton Woods 2.0, 3.0, excuse me. And Bretton Woods is where they agreed, with all those leaders got together and agreed to cement the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. So what he's saying is that there is a different thing that is going on when it concerns China now. And the BRICS nations are doing their own version of Bretton Woods, which they're trying to create a commodity-based currency that will push the dollar and in turns the British sterling pound and the euro out of the way. And this is why you see the instability and the so-called flare-up of terrorism around the world. America is trying her best to destabilize everything. Out of chaos comes what? What? Talk about America. Talk about how she uses chaos to establish her order. The Mossad talks about how they use chaos to establish their order. Right? The CIA, the Mossad, the German BND, the French intelligence service, the British MI6, MI5, all of those. They use divide and conquer, disinformation, chaos to try to establish their rule. This is what they do. This is not anything that is new to anyone. Okay, so he says that, and she asked, "Well, is this the epicenter of the new world?" And they were talking about the BRICS organization being the epicenter of something new. According to the dictionary, the word epicenter means the central point of something, typically or difficult or unpleasant situation. Excuse me, typically above. Let's see, a difficult or unpleasant situation, the central or focus point of something. So, what is the BRICS centrally focused on? Removing the dollar as the world reserve currency, and the IMF bank, and the World Bank and the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and all of these organizations that America and the Western world has leverage over and dominance over. They're focused and centered on removing those. That's why you have the Shanghai gold exchange. You have the Iranian oil bourse. You have the China, the Russian oil bourse. You have the St. Petersburg, I believe that is, gold exchange. You have the BRICS Bank, right? You have the Asian Infrastructure Bank, and now you have the Chinese African Partnership Agreement. All of these things are to leverages of power that America and the Western world had over these nations, because they would go in there and pillage the nations, and then they would offer the nations loans, but they had to do X, Y, and Z to get the loans, and then the money that they're loaning would never go to the people of the countries. The loan would go back to the Western corporations, would only do certain things to those for those people. so that they were robbing the people, not one time, not two times, but they were robbing them 3 and 4 times with these policies. And so now with the BRICS organization and the Asian Infrastructure Bank and the Chinese African Economic Partnership and the BRICS Bank and the gold bourses and the oil exchanges and stuff, all of this stuff can be done, and it's being done by degrees outside of dollar, pound, and euro denomination and domination, which means that it is weakening the position of the American empire, and in terms weakening the position of Europe and America in the Western world, so-called rules-based order. And that is why you see the flare-up of terrorism. That's why you see the flare-up of instability and war. Because these people who have ruled for so long are fighting like hell to maintain their advantage and maintain their sway and influence over everybody. And if you do trade outside the dollar, that weakens the dollar, which weakens the pound, which weakens the euro, which means that now you can't demand that commodities be sold in your currency, which means that you can't use the sanctions lever to wipe out wealth and to influence domestic policies in nations around the globe. You see? And that means that you will have to live within your own means. And we know that Europe has little to no resources, which means that Europe will be dependent on the very same nations and continents that they exploited and conquered. So the shoe would be on the other foot. That's why they took Gaddafi out. That's why they tried to take Maduro out. That's why they're demonizing Putin and demonizing Xi Jinping. Because they're fighting like hell to maintain their sway, their wealth. Because remember this, their wealth is counted in dollars, pounds, and euros. I'm worth such and such amount of euros. I'm worth such and such amount of pounds. I'm worth such and such amount of dollars. Now, if the BRICS move works and we have a transformation in global politics and global financing and stuff like that, then overnight, the dollars will be worth what they are. They have no backing. The sterling pound will be worth what it is. It has no backing. The euro will be worth what it is. It has no backing. That means total wealth destruction. And overnight, you'll see the nations that they raped and pillaged, currency rise and wealth rise. And at the same time, the Western will be constrained within their own means, and they would be wiped out financially. And they are fighting like hell, and they will kill anyone, demonize anyone, wage war with anyone who is trying to change this parasitic system. This is the truth. This is the absolute truth. I'm not making anything up. I'm telling you the truth. Listen, as we close out, I do want to thank you guys for being patient with me and for sticking with me through all of these ups and downs, especially how StreamYard and YouTube is blocking. And I want you guys to pay specific attention to the Red Pill Diaries and the Red Pill Journals membership followers account. You know, when it says 580 or 6, so I want you to pay attention to it and go back to it every day or every other day, and then look how, if it goes up 100 and something, like say if it goes up 170 subscribers, within a few days it's back down by 172 subscribers. I want you to pay attention to that. Be cognizant of that, because that is what is actually happening on a daily basis with YouTube, and we see that StreamYard is blocking us. Now, closing out, let me say this. Tomorrow we're supposed to, if he feels better, he told me to call him about 30 minutes to 45 minutes before we air. And if he feels better, we're going to have Scott Bennett on the show. We're going to also have recurring guests coming up soon on the show, and we'll have some new guests coming on the show. Also, support us on all of our platforms. Go subscribe to us on Odyssey. Go subscribe to us on Rumble. Go subscribe to us on Locals. Join the Empowerment of Truth community over on Locals. I don't really know about social media and stuff, but I'm trying to do this, so you guys help me out with this. Also, go over on our Patreon and subscribe. We give you, now they're talking about Bakhmut. You see all of the channels now talking about Bakhmut is close to falling, and you see the surrounding areas. Lizzie Chance and all of those areas in the Donbass. They're talking about that this is heavy rotation on all of the alternative media sites. I want you to go to the Red Pill Diaries, Patreon, and look at the articles that I talked about on all of these subjects days and weeks and months ago. And everything that I'm saying now, everybody else is catching up to. I'm telling you this, it's amazing. But it's patreon.com/the Red Pill Diaries, all one word. So join us tomorrow at noon. It'll be 12 o'clock East Central Time. We're gonna go up to 12 o'clock Central because we got to try to make it. We got to try to get it where it's for him because he has certain things he has to do. Okay, we might have Scott Ritter back on the show coming up soon. We might have a few other guests coming on, but you guys stay with us, and we thank you for like riding with us through all of this stuff, man. As always, we go out in the same way we came in. Remember that I love you, but God would always love you best. Stay strong, stay true, but above all things, stay righteous. I love you all, but guess what? I love you, mama.